But the character code that stretches down Western civilization is an attempt to fuse those two things. We're all familiar with the concept of merging Athens and Jerusalem, and it tends to be on an intellectual level, merging reason and revelation. But it also happens on the character level. What was chivalry? It was an attempt to take the Greek emphasis on prowess, courage, and honor, and merge it with the Christian emphasis on courtesy, submission, and love. In the Renaissance, this is what the Renaissance was about. What was Shakespeare about? There's a great book by Paul Cantor on Hamlet, emphasizing how Hamlet is essentially an effort to reconcile these two modes. Hamlet's father has been killed. Hamlet wants to be Achilles. I'm going to seek vengeance. I'm going to take him on. I'm going to kill people. I know that's the honorable thing to do. But he's also got the biblical side in his brain. I don't know. You're not supposed to give in to anger. You're supposed to leave judgment to God. You're supposed to worry about your eternal soul. You're not supposed to commit murder. And essentially, Hamlet is the story of one man caught between these two systems. But each generation comes up with another reconciliation, another attempt to fuse it. In the Victorian era, we have the code of the Victorian gentleman, the character code, which is based first on self-restraint, restrictions on sex, restrictions on what to wear, extreme etiquette, extreme propriety, but also based on assertiveness, based on leading a great empire, being a gentleman, sometimes going into dueling and things like that. In this country, we had the McGuffey Reader, a sort of democratic version of it. The tremendous emphasis on fighting for boys. Don't give in to bullies, fight your way. At the same time, tremendous emphasis on God's judgment. In the McGuffey Readers, there's a passage that the boys used to recite, the boys and girls. God always sees me. God hears everything you say. God knows everything you do. Abraham Lincoln personifies it. Tremendously ambitious man fighting a war. At the same time, the author of the second inaugural, submitting, trying to merge these two things. Walter Isaacson wrote a book with Evan Thomas called The Wise Men, about people who grew up in the middle of the 20th century. They too had this code. If you went to one of those prep schools, Choate, Andover, Groton, then Princeton, Harvard, Yale, you were instilled with this code that said, you're going to be a gentleman, you're going to be self-restrained, you're not going to talk about yourself. I remember when I used to cover George H.W. Bush, his staff would want him to talk about himself. He was campaigning for president, and but he was raised in a code, you don't talk about yourself. And they would get him to say, talk about yourself, you're running for president, talk about yourself, you're running for president. Finally, he'd talk about himself, and his mother apparently was still then alive, said, call him up and say, George, you're talking about yourself. And so that code, which he emerges, and I highly recommend reading the letters he wrote to his wife when he was away in World War II. Remarkable letters, and somebody who's lived out this code. And so that was all born into that era. And so it came together again and again and again.